Do you think Americans truly understand the history of socialism and actually what it is? As you've gone around, I know you've had, when you speak to not just college campuses, you've been to events around the world. I think 250,000 people you've spoken in front of.
I mean, people are unbelievably ignorant about history. And I mean, I would include myself in that, you know. I mean, I know what I know about the history, say, preceding the 20th century is very sketchy. It's embarrassingly sketchy, you know. And what young people know about 20th century history is non-existent, especially about the history of the radical left. I mean, how would they know? They're never taught anything about it. So why would they be concerned about it? And you know, for many of the people in the audience, you know, you're old enough so that the fall of the Berlin Wall was, well, that was part of your life, you know. That was really the end of the Second World War, let's say, in a technical sense, and it was very meaningful. But that's a long time ago. There's been a lot of people born since then, and it's ancient history. And we don't have that many good, bad examples left, you know. There's North Korea, there's Venezuela, but we're not locked tooth and nail in a war with, you know, in a proxy war or in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. And it's easy to understand why people are emotionally drawn to the ideals of socialism, let's say, or of the left, because it draws its fundamental motivational source from a kind of primary compassion. And that is always there in human beings. And so that proclivity for sensitivity to that political message will never go away. And so, and it's important to understand that. You have to give the devil his due. Yes, well, that's certainly the case. Well, first of all, I mean, if you look at the psychological literature, to the degree that it's accurate, which is difficult to ascertain often, people report far more prejudice against their group than against themselves. So that's quite an interesting phenomenon as far as I'm concerned. So there's a tendency for people to exaggerate the degree to which the group they belong to is currently suffering from generalized oppression. They've been relatively free of it themselves. I also think that, yeah, fairness is an absolutely essential, and perceived fairness is an absolutely essential component of peace, because people can tolerate inequality, so to speak, or even revel in it, let's say, if they believe that the unequal outcome is deserved. I mean, look at how people respond to sports heroes. You know, no one goes to a sports event and boos the star, even though he or she is paid much better and attracts the lion's share of the attention, hopefully not in too narcissistic a manner. People can celebrate success, but they do have to believe that the game is fair, and the game needs to be fair, because otherwise the hierarchy becomes tyrannical. The problem with the radical left is that it assumes that all hierarchies are tyrannical, and it makes no distinction between them, and that's an absolute catastrophe, because, you know, there's plenty of sins, let's say, on the conscience of the West as a civilization, but, well, it's the case, and people also don't understand that, and they also don't understand, this is something that's of particular importance, they also don't understand, and that may even characterize you in this audience. It's the knowledge of how rapidly we're making economic improvements around the world, in the developing world, for example. How fast that's happening, that is not well distributed knowledge. You know, that between the year 2000 and the year 2012, the rate of absolute poverty in the world fell by 50%. Now, it's a UN figure, $1.90 a day, that was their cutoff for absolute poverty. And so the cynics have said, well, you know, that's a pretty low barrier. It's not such an achievement to have attained that. I can tell you it's an achievement to obtain that if you were living on less than $1.90 a day to begin with. But if you look at, if you double the amount to $3.80 or you double it again to $7.60, you find the same pattern. I mean, the poor in the world are getting rich at a rate that is absolutely unparalleled in all of human history. And I think a large part of that is happening in Africa, where, by the way, here's another lovely piece of news. The child mortality rate in Africa is now the same as it was in Europe in 1952, which is, I mean, that's an absolute miracle. It's insane that that's not front page news, right? That's within a lifetime. And the fastest growing economies in the world are also there. And so